Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just start talking about chapter two. Um, the principles portion in the chapter, um, if you look in your book at the beginning of chapter two, it's where the principles portion is. It discusses how you can learn from history and case scenarios. Sometimes the historical events that happened and the victories that have occurred have led to realistic principles of public health. And they have listed about 15 of these principles. And of the 15 principles, I only want to address a few of them. Number one, learn from the experiences of other leaders. This could be observational or you working as a leader. For example, if you are mistreated by a leader in the past, you will probably remember that for a very long time, and you will always try to not treat any subordinate the same way or be that type of person. But in the opposite situation, you may find yourself irritating, um, or not irritating, but imitating a leader because you viewed them as being fair. Um, and sometimes that can kind of get in the way just because you might feel like that's the best course of action to take whenever you feel like you've had a good leader, but some people might see it as not a strong leader. It just depends on the situation. Number four, most people do not change. The weaknesses remain. Uh, Play to coworker strengths. This is a human trait. Most people believe that they are the best at what they do, so it is very difficult to change this mindset. So, being an effective leader means you have to be able to admit to yourself that you did something wrong or incorrectly, and you should use it as a learning opportunity to grow your skill sets as a leader. And don't worry about it. A lot of people will commend you on um, making a correction or admitting to something not being quite right. I mean, you can just say something like, I'm sorry I may have offended you, or I'm sorry, whomever you were right to begin with, or um, I'm glad that we can all look at something in a different light. People who are under you really take that into consideration um, as being someone who is a good leader whenever you can admit your wrongs or faults. And then number 11, training does not give you all the answers or the ability to solve real world problems. This is a very true statement. I have worked with so many people who have had the education and training to do a specific job, but because they have only learned one way of doing things, they cannot think outside of the box when it comes to real world situations. For example, I have worked with individuals who had the same job for over 20 years when I worked in taxation, um, but they couldn't tell you one single tax law. I don't know why or how this happens, but you have to realize that just because you take a great deal of pride in your work does not mean that the person working beside you has the same pride or care for the same work. Number 14 and 15, budget shortfalls, time constraints, and a person's age are not good excuses for dumping a project or a valuable employee. There will always be a budgetary and time constraint when it comes to implementing a new project or a product. Those who are willing to use time and money as an excuse to not do something is an indication of the person just trying to get through the day without looking to the future of the company. Um, because I always think that there's always a way you can cut something within a project to make it work the first go around. Because whenever you do work on a project, it's not going to be like, oh, here we finished it, let's put it in place and it's going to work forever. That's not how it works. There's always room to improve. So you can always make cuts or make cuts somewhere, whether it's in the process, budgetary or time. You can always make those cuts and grow a project or whatever it may be that you're working on over long term. Let me see. Also, using a person's age and or seniority is neither an indication of how good or poor of an employee they are. Like I mentioned before, just because someone has done the same job for a long time does not mean that they're good at it. But also keep in mind that a new, younger employee may be the best fit for a particular job. And this can be due to talent, which cannot be learned, or whole life experiences. For example, I work in education. I see teachers kind of who have been here a long time. I've seen some who have been here for a few years. I've seen some who have been here for about 10 years, 15 years. They're kind of in the middle of their career. And I see that all ranges of good and bad. But it isn't like we just sit and go, oh, we're not going to change anything because we have changes every single year. But um, there are instances where teachers, if they're on their last year, they know they're going to retire. They can sometimes be the ones who are more laid back and they slack off and they just don't do their job at all. So, experience, which I feel like is a bad trait to have. A lot of people do it. They get tired. I get it, but I feel like your last year should be one of your better years because you've had all the experience. Um, so I don't think that just because someone's older or younger doesn't mean they can't do any particular position. And moving on to shadowing. Shadowing is a great way to see new things you may not get to see prior to starting to work somewhere. However, there are things that you can do or that you have to be aware of. Um, some of these things are common sense types of behaviors. The person you're shadowing can warn everyone in advance that they will be in contact with you throughout the day, or they may see you, and they'll have a tendency to put on a show for you. And that's kind of terrible because you don't really get to see the real workforce in that situation. And then sometimes a leader who is being shadowed may make different decisions than what they normally would because you're there. And these are just some things to keep in mind. Ecological leadership. The first sentence of the eco leadership section in chapter 2 says eco leadership or ecological leaders are committed to the development of their leadership skills and competencies throughout their professional careers, while at the same time being committed to the appropriate applications of these skills within their organization and communities. This is very complex as it's really involving both sociology and biology, which is what ecology is. So, looking at ecological leadership is um, how we as a whole work together in the sense that we are humans living on Earth. We affect things on Earth and things on Earth affect us, even to the point of how we affect an animal living in the same community that we do, or how the animal may affect our everyday lives. I think of squirrels when I think about this for some reason, when discussing ecological leadership. I think this is mainly because where I live, there are a lot of squirrels, and I think about how many people have wrecks because of them. I don't know why I think about it, I just do, but they affect us and we affect them. So, leadership and practice discusses adaptive leadership. Adaptive leadership is really how people should function on an everyday basis. You need to be motivated while motivating others, have the ability to approach difficult situations and take them head on rather than backing away. You need to be an influential um, and give individual an influence and give individuals a sense of purpose. The adaptive model focuses on how flexible a leader can be. You may start a project that turns out to be a train wreck, so you change your strategy, or you might have a subordinate who needs motivation because they may not have a lot of experience, so on and so forth. So, adaptive leadership is one of the models that really allows for change in the community and has the flexibility to make changes when needed. All right, so I'm done with chapter two. Um like before, I'm not gonna I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on lectures picking apart um the slides or anything like that because I really want you to think about, yes, this is all uh context or content that you need to know, but as far as what I really want you to get out of this class, I want you to look at yourself and be able to say, okay, maybe I'm this kind of a leader, maybe I'm this kind of a leader. Um, no, because not everyone is the same. Um, so that being said, yeah, with the assignments and stuff, if you don't get them turned in on time, you need to get them turned in as soon as you possibly can. But I don't want you to spend a whole lot of time fretting over what exactly uh, you're doing. I just kind of want you to research a little bit about the area that you're planning on working in and learning who you are and how you can be an effective leader. I am looking for one of these quiz things that you can take. My husband, he's the vice president of a company, and every year they do this management training, and they did one this last year. I can't remember if it was in the spring or last summer. Um, but they give them a questionnaire to fill out, and he said it was the most random questions with the most random answers, and he said that it worked perfectly, like how whatever it was. Um, it really was like, yes, this is the kind of leader I am, and yes, that is what kind of leader this manager is. But so I'm gonna try and find one of those because I want you guys to just see what it looks like. And you may have taken one. Don't know. If you have, let me know and tell me if it was correct or not. So, I think those are interesting. But moving forward with assignments, you're gonna have the slides and lecture links posted in Top Hat. You have the questions with the slides. Um, and then you have a quiz in Top Hat as well. All that'll be in Top Hat, but from now on, whenever I give you an assignment for your portfolio, I want you to just go ahead and put it in Blackboard as an assignment. Because I think that's just going to be the easiest way to do it. I met up with a student and I wasn't able to figure anything out. So that's great. Um, and as far as grades go, I don't grade very hard because I want you to actually feel like you're learning who you are as a leader and whatever capacity you're put in a position after college, you can take on the that sort of leadership role whenever you're given the opportunity. Um, so that is all I have for you today. If you have any questions, just let me know. Um, and just keep in mind that only the assignments are going to be in Blackboard. And then, oh, and with the assignments where you have to type like a discussion question, I have to grade those manually. So, um, don't worry about your grade. All right. So thanks. And I will see you guys next time.